Even though Japan is known as a country with a highly developed economy, advanced technology, and high standard of living, there are cultural, social, and psychological factors that affect the well-being of Japanese people and lead to problems such as depression and high levels of unwillingness to live. Friends, welcome to the Holly Lolly channel. You know, today I decided to bring up such a rather difficult topic. I often ride in the Japanese subway and once again I hear that some station is blocked because of tragic circumstances. I think you know what I mean, like it or not. You wonder why it happens so often in Japan, because it is a really beautiful country with a high standard of living and prosperity. And first of all, I want to deal with this situation and this story. Let's discuss and talk with you about social pressure and perfectionism of the Japanese. In general, Japanese society has traditionally placed great importance on discipline, collectivism, and social harmony. The concept of ganbaru plays an important role. This is the desire to do everything to the limit of one's abilities. The constant striving for perfection creates a kind of pressure on people because you have to constantly meet high expectations, whether it's at school, at work, or just in society. Society constantly expects you to work hard, to do things to your limits, and this can't help but build up stress within a person. Also, let's talk to you about karoshi culture, death by overwork. Work culture in Japan is often associated with long hours of labor. Many companies expect their employees to work overtime and with complete dedication, which often leads to burnout and psychological health issues. The term karoshi has come to symbolize extreme working conditions, which speaks to the seriousness of this problem. You know, as I would often say in my videos, it's in Japan that there's this thing that Japanese people work inefficiently. They work very hard, but if you go into a place, you'll see that the workers get all together to discuss a single point of work. They have a lot of dedication and they feel very strongly about every work situation. A friend of mine is a concert organizer and he told me that in preparation for one of the events, the Japanese discussed for 42 minutes how to open the door to let people into the concert hall. They were discussing who would do it and how they would do it. And honestly, if I had heard this story just somewhere without living in Japan, I wouldn't have believed, but seeing how it happens in Japan, I'm not even surprised anymore. When you come with a really small question, they are still worried enough not to mislead you and not to give you any false information. A question that in our countries would take 2 to 3 minutes, in Japan it takes an hour of discussion. They make reports on each item, who did what almost by the hour, and it takes a lot of effort, energy, and time. I am by no means saying that the Japanese somehow underwork, they just overwork. But their work is often inefficient. It's also a shame that they take it all so personally. There's also the term Hikikomori, which means social isolation. It's when many young people in Japan voluntarily isolate themselves from society. It's especially common for teenagers and young adults to literally lock themselves in their rooms for months or even sometimes years. And the reasons are often pressure, failure in school or work, and fear of socializing and social interaction. Under social stress, they simply find it best to avoid unnecessary social contact, which also exacerbates their depression. And, of course, it is worth revisiting the first point again here. If society demands very high standards and dedication from people, then when a person realizes that he or she does not meet some standards, he or she prefers to isolate himself or herself from such a society and not to contact it at all, rather than to consult a psychologist. The Japanese have a fear of not meeting some criteria. This fear is more prevalent than any wants or needs. And you know, it's the same reason why a lot of people just become homeless and disappear. For example, a husband is afraid to let his family down and decided that it would be easier to disappear than to say that he lost his job or that he couldn't cope with something. It's actually very sad. When I start thinking about it, I get depressed myself. Honestly speaking, it was in Japan that I felt such an accumulation of stress that I had some bad thoughts myself. Maybe it is because you are constantly forced to smile insincerely somewhere and nobody cares what you have on your mind. Most likely, Japanese people don't tell each other what they really have going on, and all this stress accumulates inside and then spills out into something bad. So you know why I decided to record this video? It's already November, and this is such a personal difficult period for me, because it is 12 years since my mom died, and you know, then I had no desire to live for a very long period of time. But even then I didn't think that I could do something with myself, and it was in Japan that I got back this state of excessive stress, when everything seems to be more or less normal, but somehow the roof goes off. And in general, I am very much interested in the subject of psychology. I studied it in detail at university, and then I took a lot of courses. Because of this I can pull myself out of this state, and I really want to record this video, because many people suffer from depression, overwork, fatigue. I want to convey that life is beautiful, it is given to us once, and we should cherish cherish and appreciate what we have. You know, I want to say that everything can be survived. A human being is such a creature that can adapt to all conditions and can survive them. And that is why it is very important to seek help in time from a psychologist, from a friend, from relatives. Or you can try to get out of this state on your own, and I will tell you later how I got out of my depressive state, what really helped me. But before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about what happens with Japanese people. The Japanese mentality is that no one will let you into their world and no one will accept you. Also, I don't know the language, so I wanted to talk about such a difficult topic and share it with you. You know, as I said a little earlier, the Japanese traditionally do not accept to openly express their emotions, especially negative ones. Since childhood, people learn to hide all their feelings, not to show weakness, and this can lead to the fact that many people here hold back stress and depression. As a result, they accumulate everything in themselves for years and do not find a way out of some situations and supportive relatives and close people. Psychological help in Japan, unfortunately, is still stigmatized, and many people are simply afraid to seek help for fear of being judged. Everyone is afraid that the other person will somehow judge you, look at you wrong, think the wrong thing. Also, don't forget that Japan has an aging population. It has one of the highest longevity rates in the world and a low birth rate. Older people are often left alone, without family support, and of course this can lead to feelings of loneliness and isolation. It also adds pressure on the younger generation who have to provide care for elderly relatives, which of course creates additional stress. Let's not forget such problems that even in big cities, people can feel isolated and lonely despite the dense population. Also, financial difficulties, economic crises, and unstable jobs also lead to anxiety and depression. You know, the frustrating thing is that a person may simply be afraid to even go to their family to tell them that something is wrong, that something is bothering them, because they are afraid of appearing weak. This is more often the case with men, because there are attitudes that he must be reliable for his wife and children. And the Japanese, instead of talking, solve the situation in a different way. Now I wanted to share some really working techniques that can help each of us to cope with stress. Probably about 5 years ago, I learned about this method of relaying. It is such a psychological technique of emotion and stress management, which is aimed at non-retention of negative experiences and internal processing of stressful situations so that they do not harm a person. I am a very impressionable person who takes everything to heart. This is very bad, but I know that I am not the only one and that there are people who also act out. And this is the method that helps me. We have to relay these negative emotions. This method really helps me not to accumulate other people's stress. I have enough of my own. The essence of the retransmission method is that a person does not take negative information or negative events too close to his heart. He does not absorb these emotions, but lets them pass through him as if neutrally transmitting them, not keeping them inside. It also helps to avoid the accumulation of negative emotions that can lead to burnout, anxiety, or depression. This approach resembles several similar techniques in psychology, such as detachment. It involves maintaining emotional distance from external situations that may be stressful or negative. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or emotions, but instead of becoming completely immersed in them, the person learns to perceive them more neutrally, without overreacting emotionally. There is also a technique called mindful acceptance. Mindfulness practice often utilizes the concept of observing one's emotions and thoughts without engaging in them. When faced with a negative situation, one accepts it for what it is. One does not judge or try to change it in any way, but does not allow it to take over one's consciousness. This is close to relaying emotions by letting them pass through and not dwelling on them. A technique such as emotional deconstruction is to separate emotions and their causes. When a person experiences some negative emotions, they learn to see them not as something personal, but as a temporary reaction to an external stimulus. This helps to realize that negative emotions are not part of one's essence, but only a consequence of certain events or the words of others. We separate the emotions from the situation itself and try to look at it from the outside. Also, a similar method is the glass wall technique. If to explain it in simple words, it is if you imagine that you are surrounded by a certain glass wall, and all negative emotions just slide on it and do not reach you. This is also a method that helps you to not take it personally. And how does it work? Let me tell you by some examples. First of all, you should observe your emotions. When some stressful or negative situation arises, instead of reacting instantly and plunging into emotions, you just try to observe them. You can, for example, ask yourself what you are feeling right now, why this is causing you such emotions. This will create some distance between you as a person and your reaction. The next thing is to let go of control. You know, I'm the kind of person who is constantly trying to control everything and everywhere, and that's my mistake. I know that, and I'm trying to do something about it. You have to first realize that you can't always control everything. You have to accept the fact that events just happen, they are on their own, and you don't have to control everything that happens around you. And you also have to physically free yourself from emotions. And sometimes it is even useful to visualize that emotions are something that is just flowing through you. For example, if you are feeling anxious or angry, you can visualize that these feelings are just water that flows through the person without lingering inside. You can also use the practice of internal dialogue from time to time. Imagine that it's not all mine, it's just some emotion, it's taken and gone. When you will imagine that it does not linger in you, but as if it passes by, it will also help not to hold negativity inside. You know, it can happen that you are so stressed that you cannot even control the situation, and at that moment your heart is flying out of your chest. I think that's when a deep breathing technique can help. It's called breathing 4, 7, 8. On the count of 1, 2, 3 for you inhale through the nose, on 5, 6, 7 count slowly to yourself and hold your breath, and on the count of 8, you slowly let the air out through the mouth. This technique will help slow down your heartbeat. You will feel that you are starting to calm down a little bit at a time, and your thoughts will lighten up. The stress will go away a little bit. You will stabilize your inner state. I also know that meditation helps a lot of people. The reason why meditation doesn't help me is that I fall asleep immediately. If you try to meditate, you turn on some relaxing music and focus on your breathing. But this is somehow not my thing, but it helps a lot of people, and if it helps you, it's great. There is also a technique called progressive muscle relaxation. It consists in the fact that when you have some anxiety or stress, you can take turns mentally walking through your body and contract your muscles. One arm tensed, the other arm relaxed. And when you switch to relaxation, alternate with some kind of pressure, it helps us just to get away from the fact that our brain is spinning some negative thoughts, experiences. It helps in the moment to get rid of some tension and reduce anxiety levels. Cognitive behavioral therapy can also help reduce stress and anxiety levels. It focuses on changing the negative thought patterns that cause anxiety and stress. One such technique is reframing. This is conscious thought work. When some disturbing thought arises, try asking yourself some questions. How realistic is the thought in general? Could it have any consequences? Is there evidence in favor of or against the thought? Think about what more balanced and positive interpretation of the situation you can offer. Working with thoughts helps to reduce their impact on your emotional state and replace them with more constructive ones. Also, don't forget that regular physical activity such as walking, running, swimming, yoga helps to reduce stress and anxiety levels. Exercise releases endorphins, the happy hormones that improve mood and help you cope with emotional stress. When I get emotional, I try to go for a walk or play badminton with my kids or my sister. And after such a thing you immediately start to smile, be happy, and really feel a burst of energy and strength, and negative thoughts fly away, go to the background. You know, sometimes many people complain that they can't fall asleep. Some bad thoughts don't let them do it. Visualization technique helps me in this problem. First, when you try to relax the whole body, usually we have tight muscles on our face, for example, and before going to bed you try to mentally relax between the eyebrows, near the eyes, nose, and so every muscle. And as long as you do that halfway through your body, you can fall asleep. Or visualization technique, when you imagine something that you love. And this visualization also helps the organism to relax, to rest, and to enter the state of calmness. And you know, if you happen to be in a state of stress or depression, I would advise you to consult a doctor first of all, but I like sedatives that are herbal, they will not hurt. I only drink some magnesium from time to time. By the way, it would be good to take a blood test for the presence or lack of some vitamins in the body to understand what exactly is missing. And here is a sedative on herbs, they do not interfere. I think that you can, so to speak, prescribe and drink to somehow also calm the body. It is necessary to sleep well, as trivially as it may sound, but when I have apathetic state I just try to allocate at least some time to sleep well. Because otherwise everything is over, my body is exhausted, and it cannot continue to function, and then very often negative thoughts creep in, which just overflow from the inside. Believe me, even if you are very busy, still find some time to yourself to sleep. If, for example, mom is in a bad mood, she is stressed, she does not get enough sleep, it is better to give mom the opportunity to sleep, and then the family will be calmer, and the stress level also decreases. Because the constant lack of sleep accumulates, and this stress also kind of starts to eat away at you from the inside. And you know, It is always very good when you have close people with whom you can share what is on your heart, and I think that you should tell your loved ones what is going on with you, so that they can help you somehow. Also, if you practice the technique of gratitude, it also helps. For example, to think in the evening before going to bed, what am I grateful for? It can be quite simple and trivial things. Thank you for the delicious food, thank you for the beautiful weather. And let it be 3 thanks a day, but you tune into the positive and give yourself an opportunity to live positive moments once again, and it also helps to fight with accumulated stress in small steps. And the last point is to limit yourself from unnecessary negative information. For example, we all love gadgets. When you work for hours on the phone, and then you are dragged in some negative news, then you accumulate it inside and causes again negativity. It's better not to read anything at all before going to bed, or at least watch something pleasant. Maybe you like stand-ups and something will make you laugh and give you strength and energy to live on. Friends, thank you all so much for watching this video. Write me in the comments, should I sometimes make videos on similar psychological topics or not? Love you all. Subscribe to the channel, like and see you in new videos. Bye.